For the Kennebec Journal Morning Sentinel and Central Maine Sports, I'm Travis Lazarzik, now joined by Travis Barrett. We have all your Travis needs covered for the high school basketball tournament coming up. Travis, let's talk about the girls tournament, starting with the A North. Skowhegan's undefeated. It feels like they've kind of been building to this season for a while with these starters who've been out there for their fourth year now.
Yeah, I feel like they have, and I think it's I don't know that Michael Blank sort of joked after a recent game against Messalonsky that he feels like sometimes they just need him to yell at them just for something to do, because it's been it's been I think even easier than expected probably. I think they made it to the regional semifinals last year. They were pretty young. It probably wasn't quite their time, and Messalonsky beat them in a close game. They kind of picked up right where they left off on that one. They've really just not really been challenged, at all this year, and I think they're rightly undefeated. I think they're by far the best team in the bracket. I think one interesting piece that's kind of gets lost with all of those seniors, especially with players like Annie Cook and Sydney Ames and some of those girls, is J.C. Christopher's a freshman who doesn't play like a freshman. Mike doesn't go deep into his bench. He only goes 7, maybe 8 players deep, but J.C.'s always the first one off the bench, and she's tall. I guess the basketball parlance is she's long, and
sure.
But she can shoot threes too. So she gives them what they need in terms of if we need to have more of an inside game, she can do that. And if the guard plays working and teams are collapsing on defense, she's just as comfortable on the perimeter to make shots. And that's kind of the way that whole Skowhegan team is. So I think they are legitimately number one and undefeated for a reason.
Yeah. If someone's going to challenge Skowhegan, who is it? Is it Hamden, who's kind of coming off of a state championship game run last year, or Lawrence, someone like that?
Well, it's funny. I think everybody thought it would be Hamden, but it hasn't really panned out that way. And I think Skowhegan's able to kind of neutralize the size that Hamden has with Bailey Donovan, because they're going to stretch Hamden out and because they can shoot from everywhere.
Right.
But having said that, I thought as early as the beginning of January, I said to somebody, if you're looking for a sleeper in that A North tournament, it might be Lawrence. But I don't know that they're a sleeper anymore. I mean, they're a 3 seed. They've played, even the games they've lost, they've played really tough. I think what makes Lawrence, to me, a sleeper in this tournament is, and I know you guys talked about it on the boys' side a little bit, if they make shots, they're as good as any team out there because they can shoot. They don't have a ton of size underneath, and I think that's the problem. Sarah Poley's really their only inside presence. She's shorter than I am. She plays big. I mean, she does a fantastic job. She gives them what they need and to be able to get it out to the guards and do that. But I think if Lawrence has a weakness, especially against Skowhegan and Hammond, it's going to be their size might catch up to them if they're cold from the floor at all.
Well, I saw Lawrence play once this season in a game they won against Messalonsky. They just spread everything out with offensive depth. I think they had 4 players in double figures that night, and they could have gone maybe 5 or 6 with someone coming off the bench and scoring for them.
Yeah, you can't really. I think that's what makes Lawrence an interesting team is you can't really predict. I mean, sure, Keegan Alley, Megan Curtis, Brooklyn Lambert, they're going to get their points. Even Savannah Weston on some nights, go, wow, where did those 12 points come from? Because she, like Sarah, a little bit she's there to play defense inside and grab rebounds and get it back outside. And I think again, like you said, they spread it out literally and figuratively. They play the perimeter as well as any team in the tournament probably.
Okay, let's look at B North girls. It's kind of rare that an undefeated team like Waterville isn't the number 1 seed, but that probably just goes to more of the the heel points available in their conference, the Kennebec Valley Athletic Conference, than anything. They're going to be number 3 behind I think MDI and Herman. Yeah. So where do you feel like Waterville fits in? Are they a sleeper, a surprise team, despite being undefeated, or?
I guess I would say that. I feel like for Waterville that I would be surprised if they made it all the way to the regional final. But at the same time, I wouldn't be shocked. I think they're, I don't know, it's high school sports, right? But I guess if I was looking at a rebuilding plan, they're probably a year away from where they thought they would be. They have 1 senior on the roster in Hannah LeClaire. She comes off the bench. She's a 6th or 7th man most nights. But their core is really sophomores and juniors. And so I think they're a little bit ahead of schedule. I feel like whatever experience they get this week coming up is going to be huge for them next year. I think they'll be around for a little while because one thing they do really well is they play defense. They play full court defense, and they force teams to be uncomfortable. And I think, as we all know, when in a tournament situation where you're playing 3 times in 7 or 8 days, you get a little luck on your side, you make some shots, and you can be around. And so I think, maybe sleeper is a good way to say it, even for an undefeated team. A tremendous year. First time in 10 years Waterville's, been undefeated. So, but there is still some work ahead of them, and I think those two teams at the top are probably a little bit better than they are.
Yeah. And they're playing a team in the quarterfinals in John Babst, who they know very well. They played each other twice in the regular season. They played in the tournament last year. Played in the regular season last year. So this is like the fifth or sixth team they've played each other in 2 years. So
I feel like if you're looking for hope for Waterville, not that you need a whole lot. Again, 18-0 is what it is. But I think we had the same questions about Winslow last year in their run to the state championship. I saw them on a bunch of nights and felt like they just don't score enough. You don't feel like they can put teams away. But they got to the tournament. They kept their emphasis on defense. They kept their defense. They kept their focus on the little things and attention to detail. Got them all the way to the state championship. So, who's to say Waterville can't do the same kind of thing? Yeah,
and this Winslow team coming off a state championship last season is the fifth seed here. They won a state championship as a sixth seed in the region last year, so that shouldn't scare anybody off. And returning, I think, 4 or 5 starters. So this is a team that, has experience. Talked to Coach Brenda Beckwith this morning. She's like, they didn't have me as a coach last year because she took over for Lindsay Withy, who had to step down for, job commitments, but said that can only help them.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a group of athletes, too. If we look at, the girls that are on that team, they whether it's the Littlefields, whether it's Megan Bernard, whether it's Paige Trapp, they're successful in other sports as well. Yeah. They're all ultra competitive. They have track records of success in other sports. They won a state championship last year in basketball. Right. So I feel like I think that stuff does help. I thought it's a little bit off topic, but I saw the Carabec girls last night in a prelim where they came out in the first quarter and they were horrible. And afterwards, their coach, Skip Rue, said the moment might have been a little too big for us. Now, that's a really young team. So the parallel I would make is, if you have some experience, you've been there before, you've been in that building before, you've played in pressure games, I think it doesn't bother you as much as if you're new to it.
Right. And then MCI girls with an upset win. And, I guess it's not a big upset if it's 9 over an 8. But they won at Oceanside last night in the prelim round to make it to Bangor. And they'll play number 1 MDI in the quarterfinals. Yeah. This is an MCI team that, made it last year, was knocked out in overtime in the quarterfinals. But, again, a little experience and a good post player in Krista Carr.
Yeah, and I feel like early in the year they were in every game and found ways to lose them. I think at some point you could go back and look at their first 6 losses were not by a lot of points. And I think they had to learn kind of how to win. And I feel like in the second half of the year, that's sort of what's happened for them. And so I think I'm not surprised they've gotten here, but I do think, unfortunately for them, just as you start to hit your stride, now you get to go run into one of the top seeds in the tournament. Yeah. So that's a rough draw. But I think they if you're looking for an upset special, maybe. They have kind of found their rhythm here at the end of the year.
If there's anything, there's a history of upsets happening in the B North girls tournament. I was looking today. The number 1 and 2 seeds haven't both made the regional final up there since 2012. So
there's hope.
Yeah.
There's hope. So there's hope for a Waterville MCI regional final is what you're saying.
There could be.
All right, let's do it.
Central Maine would love like a Waterville-Winslow regional final. Get that rivalry. Kick that up a notch. All right, B South, the Oak Hill girls are number 2. We were talking about it with Drew a little bit ago. They're kind of in the same boat as the Marana Cook boys in that they had a great regular season. Now they're going into a tournament where they just don't have any history with any of these opponents, particularly a really strong Gray New Gloucester team that they could run into down the road.
Yeah, and I think unlike the Marana Cook boys who are tested against A and B teams all year, Oak Hill plays in the Mountain Valley Conference, and they mostly see Class C teams all year. And it's just such a huge leap when you get into that B South with some of the schools and some of the powerhouses that are there. I think that's a tough draw. They're helped a little bit, obviously, by having earned enough points to finish number 2. That might give them a slightly easier road than if you throw them in there at 6 or 7, and now you're going right in against the iron. But again, Oak Hill, another program, ton of athletes that are successful in a lot of sports. They've got some girls that know how to play, and they've won 16 games this year. So I don't think you luck into.
No, you're not a slouch.
I don't think you luck into double-digit wins. Right. Not usually.
That'd be tough to do. Class C South. Anyone going to hang with Booth Bay?
Nope.
I didn't think so.
Next. No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
If anyone could, who?
Yeah, I think if you remember last year, that Booth Bay team. I thought this came up this week. We were all sort of stunned when they didn't make the regional final. I think they lost in the semis to Monmouth.
2 years ago they lost. Didn't they lose the finals last year to Monmouth?
Was it last year?
Yeah, Drew's
final?
over in the corner nodding. Yeah. So,
but if you remember correctly, last year that Booth Bay team got whacked by the flu during that week. And I think it was Faith Button who, like, there was first half she didn't play, and everybody was wondering if she had been injured in a previous. They were wrecked by the flu. And so now they're all a year older. They've been here before. They're probably a little bit hungrier. And if they stay away from the flu,
get your shots.
I think they're going to be a tough. That's a really tough draw.
They're loaded.
They're loaded. They're tall. They're athletic. They do
Leathen's one of the best players to state, regardless of class.
Yeah.
She really is.
So I don't envy any team that draws them right off the bat for sure.
Yeah. Is there a sleeper? Do you think? I mean, we got a region now where the 12 and 13
knocked
off the 4 and 5.
Yeah.
So
I was going to say, I think if you're looking for any storylines in that tournament, I do think having 12 and 13 both win prelims and playing in a regional quarterfinal against each other.
Right. Trape and Madison.
Yeah. Pretty good story. I mean, I think that's. But I think I don't know. I just don't see it in that field. Winthrop 16 and 2.
Yeah.
But boy, I think they would need some help. You know, you guys talked about the Winthrop boys and how they feel about Waynfleet. Feel like for the Winthrop girls and for to be fair, not just for Winthrop girls, but for all the teams in that region, they are going to need Booth Bay to slip up as much as they're going to need to go out and play their best game in order to beat them.
Combination of both, probably.
In droves.
Right. All right, and in Class D South, same thing. Kind of Rangeley lost one game early in the season to Buckfield, and then went and beat them by 20.
Yeah, with 3 games.
Can anybody hang with Rangeley?
No, I don't think so. Well, I shouldn't say I don't think so, because I do think in Class D, right, depth is always the great equalizer. Yeah. So, we get those three officials on the floor, games get called a little tighter, you get some people in foul trouble. Those Class D teams don't have the same kind of depth typically that, A and B schools have. So, I don't know. I do think it's interesting with Rangeley. I feel like every year Heidi Thierry's teams are like, they come out and you watch them at the beginning of the year and she's just kind of working with it. But boy, does she know how to, when you hit February, she has those teams. She knows when the time of year that matters is. I think a lot of coaches say, well, it doesn't really matter now. Let's see. We'll be where we want, hopefully, in the spring. She seems to really understand that. It's not just coach speak with her, and I think her teams reflect that. So. Yeah, and that'd be a tough out.
Yeah, and like the boys D South tournament, it's 8 teams and out of 9, and you're going to have some matchups that could be lopsided in the quarterfinals. Yeah, get out of it healthy and get ready for some tougher semifinal games.
Yep, and I do think in Rangeley's case, they probably won't really be tested till the regional final. If we're being honest, you can send the hate mail to my email address, but I just feel like it just sort of shapes up for them, like their first real test won't be till the regional final.
Yeah, it's like Booth Bay. If they take care of business, they should get through it easily.
Right.
Yeah. Anything that you're looking forward to in any class?
Well, I am looking forward, again, we talked about it a little bit, but I am looking forward to see how the Class A North shakes out. Is Skowhegan as good as they've been all year? I feel like it'll be fun to watch and see if, I think those girls, again, between softball at that school, field hockey at that school, they understand winning and winning traditions. But I am interested to watch Lawrence play. And a team we didn't mention in A North who will also be sort of interesting is, Messalonsky is a defending regional finalist. They won the state championship two years ago. Yeah. And they've got a slightly different identity, not just in terms of what they have for personnel, but Keith Rosby talked a lot about the second half of the year. They started to play a little differently and approach things a little differently. I wouldn't count them out in a one-and-done kind of situation in any of those games. And they're going to play Gardner in the quarterfinals. And I think that one right there is going to be – I think that tournament will be – I think, like the boys, that'll be really entertaining. I think you can't – I think it's Skowhegan, and then I think it's everybody else. So I think who gets to kind of, finds their way through all of that to get to regional final will be fun to watch. So I think that's what I'm looking forward to the most. That and some sleep here this weekend before we get started.
Okay. Well, that's going to do it for us here. Be sure to check out centralmaine.com every day throughout the tournament to get all your coverage. And thanks for watching.